So Zach Lavine tried to figure out where exactly has he been. He probably been wondering what's been going on with him out in Chicago, because that team is a hot mess and they have no idea what they're doing. Just one of the worst ran organizations in the NBA, and it is terrible, tragic, and it keeps getting worse as Zach Lavine decides to undergo season-ending surgery in his right foot. No, that's tough. That's tough. I feel for the brother. Now, before we were going into this, there was definitely a lot of conversation on what he was going to decide to do. He decided to elect to go to season-ending surgery, probably particular to the fact that Chicago really wasn't moving in the right direction. They were probably going to look to rebuild and unload him, and it didn't make any sense for him to try to rush himself back out there for a season that was going to be lost. The season that he is going to undergo in the upcoming weeks will be resulting in him missing 4 to 6 months, again, effectively removing him for the entire regular season. So what exactly does this mean long-term for the Chicago Bulls, Zach Lavine, and everybody else that is involved? So putting things into proper perspective, as we record this video, Chicago is 23-26. They actually just lost the game against the Sacramento Kings, so it's going to get continuously worse. In the process of Zach Lavine being gone, I do want to say that there's been a saving grace and a silver lining that Kobe White has been amazing. He's been great, so that's going to be something that is pivotal to him. However, this season now being off the table for Zach Lavine means that we're talking about only 2 years left under his contract. It's going to be interesting to see how Chicago moves forward when dealing with him, because all season long, there's been constant conversation about Zach Lavine, where he's going to be traded, and Chicago hit the restart button. And now with him being out for the rest of the season, it seems like that is basically impossible. So Chicago's gonna have to sit on Zach Lavine for a whole nother year. Something that you don't want to do if you're Chicago, as you've been losing games, and now DeMar DeRozan's on expiring, Pat Williams, you got to get his contract. Andre Drummond's coming off the books. Alex Caruso next season will be on an expiring contract, and then Lonzo, you have to deal with him as well. So a bunch of injuries, bunch of contract situations that's really messing up things out in Chicago. In terms of Zach Lavine, this hurts him pretty significantly, because not only we're talking about someone who's in his prime at the peak of his powers, or supposed to be, you have to deal with a step back that is causing you to miss basically an entire season, because he didn't play that many games even when he was healthy this season. But more importantly, Zach Lavine, in my opinion, is just one of the more underrated players in the NBA. Consistently goes forgotten about and overlooked, largely because he's in a team that's been consistently losing. But he's been putting up really good numbers leading up to this season. Over the past 3 years, he has been averaging roughly around 25 points, 4.5 assists, roughly 5 rebounds, shooting splits of nearly 50% from the field, 39% from behind the arc, and 85% from the free throw line. Great slasher, three-point shooter, floor spacer, bucket getter, and he has definitely emerged as an interesting quality piece in Chicago that unfortunately they have not been able to maximize. And as that has started to become a bit more obvious and true, trade talk started to happen, as well as him demanding something different going on in his career. Now, there has been some conversations and potential talks about the fact that Zach Lavine decided to undergo the season-ending surgery once he heard some rumors about him being traded to Detroit. That's tough. Hell, man, y'all, no way, y'all. Hey, NBA Twitter is disgusting, dog. That's tough, man. Zach Lavine trade rumors, Pistons linked are real. And then all of a sudden after that, he decided to just season in his injury. I think the Detroit Zach Lavine noise is real, and that if the Pistons do that, Bull fans need to be prepared for a return that will underwhelm them, as Zach Lowe has reported. Now, after you heard that, ironically enough, he decided to opt into surgery, and it seems like that's the kind of calling call of what's happening there. And honestly, I wouldn't even mind Zach Lavine in Chicago, no cap, because him next to Cade seems really, really good. Got some flexible front court players as well. I actually don't mind that whatsoever. The return for him wasn't going to be that good at all, and I think that's an ongoing conversation that many people have been trying to have over the past couple of weeks now. The Chicago Bulls may need to offer additional assets if they want to offload Zach Lavine's contract. There is a growing feeling among rival executives that the Bulls may have to attach another asset to move Lavine. Some sources say that Bulls have been hesitant to do so. So that's true, but when you're making $40+ million, you're not really of that caliber. You're getting paid around the same amount of ballpark. I think I want to say is Anthony Davis. $40 million this year, $43 next year, $46 a year after that, player option of $48, and now he's dealing with an injury. He's definitely taking that money. Hey, ain't no problem at all. So Zach Lavine is getting he's on the same contract as Trae Young and Luka Doncic. He's getting the same amount of money as Anthony Davis in the next 2 years as well. Kyrie Irving in that same ballpark as well. Devin Booker in that same ballpark. Not too much more or not too much less than Jimmy Butler and Dame and Giannis and them. So he was up there in price point. A lot of money being paid to a player that I don't think anybody feels confident in claiming that he could be the best player on a championship team. You could there even argue he might even be the second best player on a championship team. So paying that much money to what you would perceive to be a third option, or at least a piece that will help you rebuild in the process. Hefty price point, hefty penny, and didn't really seem realistic. And the only team that was willing to bite on it are the Detroit Pistons. And I do believe that's a huge reason why teams like the Golden State Warriors and the Los Angeles Lakers kind of fell out of these conversations, because once you really look at the price point, look at the production, look at the injury history, and now dealing with this as well, I think that's a big reason why a lot of people pulled out. Detroit is probably still going to be interested in applying Zach Lavine to their roster, especially next season when they can make a lot of things shake. But Zach Lavine dealing with a foot injury that is going to be season ending definitely is going to put a halt in that conversation as well. So now as we look at a bigger picture here, in terms of the rest of the league, it's going to be sucky because not only Detroit is out of the conversation, but also potentially Philadelphia, not only because Zach Lavine's dealing with the injury, but also Joel Embiid is dealing with the injury as well. Something that I just got done talking about in my last video. So if you are interested in that conversation, make sure you go check that out as well. But also let me know your thoughts about Zach Lavine and what he's going through. Big picture for him, someone who is playing amazingly great, but unfortunately seems like his career keeps getting derailed with injuries. And until next time, I'll see you all later. Peace.